All right, so today we are talking about Secret Project number 2. Now, for this video, I will be talking about the book's name, the actual name of it. I'll be talking about some of the world building in it. So if those are things you don't want spoiled, if you haven't read it yet, then don't watch this. And really, I'm not sure what else you could watch about the book that doesn't involve those things. But I won't be getting into any particular story spoilers as far as the plot goes or anything like that. I'll keep it spoiler free on that end. So with that being said, let's get into it. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. It's a mouthful, but honestly, wonderful book. I really loved this book. Caveat, I don't love it the same way I love Mistborn or Stormlight or even Warbreaker or even Atlantis for that matter. I would though on a point say that to me personally, better book than Elantris, but totally different type of love for it. Totally different. So quick breakdown of what the book is generally about. So guy wakes up in a field, half in medieval Europe clothes and blue jeans. No idea where he's at, when he's at, or why he's there, or who he is. Complete blank slate. And it turns out he's in medieval England and basically has to figure stuff out from there. And it's a really fun book. And that's the thing to remember here is like Brandon Sanderson wrote these books, all these secret projects during the COVID lockdown as just a way to have fun. Like he wasn't writing them to publish. Like he had no intentions of publishing them when he wrote them. If it hadn't been for his wife going like, hey, these are good. You should put these out there. Then these would just went into a desk drawer. These were just pure Brandon Sanderson and having a good time writing for fun. And he talks about this a lot in his lecture series on writing that he gives, where he says that, you know, his writing class and at university, he makes it free online, but it's not just for people that want to make a profession out of writing. He very clearly states that like writing can be just fun and good for you. You know, not everyone that plays basketball in their backyard is doing it with the hopes and ambitions of turning that into a full-time job and income. Like some people just enjoy playing basketball. He just enjoys writing. It's just fun for him. And this was pure Brandon Sanderson having fun. So keep that in mind. So someone that has just read Stormlight Archives, Mistborn, and you know the more serious Cosmere type stuff, and then get their hands on this, I think they'll be a little surprised because this is not that. It's not a serious, deep, meaningful book. It's not. But people that follow Brandon a little more closely, maybe watch his podcast with him and Dan just goofing off. If you're familiar with that side of Brandon, this book makes so much more sense. So something they do at the beginning of their podcast with Brandon Sanderson and Dan is they go over bad story ideas. So they'll just come up with like, this would be an idea for a story, but it's not a really good idea for a story. And they just kind of riff on it back and forth a little bit. And that really feels like what happened with this book. And he says actually in the book, you know, a little bit about the origins of where this book came from. And to tell you how much of a storyteller Brandon is, like he tells himself basically a bedtime story to himself every night as he's going to sleep. That's just, if he lets his mind run, stories come out. And so he'll get little nuggets here and there of different things. And he had come up with this title a long time ago, this Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. And it's like, it's cool title. It's interesting. A little throwback to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy type vibe to it. But he didn't have any story attached to it. He's also he's a very big critic on time travel. Anytime you try to tell a story and you throw time travel into it, there's no real clean way to do it. Like he's a hard magic system kind of guy. You throw time travel in there, it's got all kinds of complications where it breaks everything as far as plot devices go. You get paradox after paradox after paradox, and it's hard to do. And in this story, he does a type of time travel that doesn't have all those paradoxes and things in it like that. And it's fascinating to me. Like the breakups between chapters in this book is actually excerpts from the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. And honestly, you could have just gave me all of those and I'd have been almost just as happy with this reading experience. Like, the world building on this side is just, it's deep, it's unique. I've not seen it done this way before. The closest I can get to the world building magic system, because this is more of a science fiction story than it is a fantasy story, is if you've ever seen the old 90s sci-fi show Sliders, where they're going into infinite number of dimensions and different versions of Earth and things like that. It's very on cue with that, but he works out the mechanics of it in such a wonderful way. Now, as far as the tone of the story goes, like I said, this is not a very serious book. There's some parts that are, intense and serious and action-packed, of course, but like the overall tone of it, it's more, we'll say, it's more wit than it is Dalinar. Okay? Still have some serious parts on it, but the tone is definitely more fun and lighthearted. And I know there's a lot of people out there that love Brandon Sanderson's stuff, typically, that don't much care for the wit, Lopin, Wayne type humor that he throws in. So if those things are like not your jam when it comes to Brandon Sanderson, it probably won't be that enjoyable for you. Now, if you're like me and love that kind of stuff, read it. You may want to reread it. It's really good. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's got great world building in it. The characters are good, but it's a lot of fun to read. If you need a break from something serious, maybe you just finished Oathbringer or something like that, and you just need to breathe or something. This would be a good book to read after that. Very lighthearted, no Cosmere connections whatsoever. Although, on that point, like even when he's telling a non-Cosmere story and more of a sci-fi story, you still get glimpses of like Cosmere type things happening. Not trying to spoil anything, but like read it and see if it doesn't line up with some Cosmere world building type lore and things like that. Very, very, very interesting. Makes me very excited for later Cosmere books when we're going to be getting into more of the sci-fi type technology in the Cosmere world. So that would be interesting though, if this is actually a Cosmere book, just so far in the future, different world, that it doesn't seem Cosmere until we get to later Cosmere and it ties back to it. I wouldn't put that past him. You know how he is trying to sneak things into everything he does. There's always another secret. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. I loved the book. If you've read it, let me know what you think of it. If you haven't read it, let me know if you plan to read it or not. I'm curious. And as always, guys, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. The Frugal Wizard's Guide. All right, so the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval Europe. Third time. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. It's a mouthful.